The war started without warning. Ships vanished from patrol routes. Colonies stopped answering calls. When scouts were sent, they found nothing but silence and wreckage. Burned metal, broken satellites, and deep claw marks across the ground. The Galactic Council blamed pirates at first. But pirates don't tear apart battlecruisers in seconds. Soon, rumors began to spread. Survivors talked of a creature, not a fleet. A living monster that moved like smoke and hunted like a shadow. It left no trail, no reason, no mercy. They called it Varnuk, the Death Mind. Some said it was born from a cursed planet. Others believed it was created in a lab. No one knew for sure, but all agreed on one thing: it obeyed no one. The Council tried to capture it. Armies were sent. They used plasma tanks, drones, psychic blockers, and sonic traps. Every mission failed. Teams were wiped out in minutes. Footage showed nothing but flashes of light and terrified screams before silence. Some scientists claimed the creature had no fear, no weakness, and no soul. Eventually, they built a prison on a hollow moon. A deep vault with force fields, layered barriers, and psychic dampeners. Varnuk was finally trapped. It didn't rage. It didn't roar. It simply waited, like it knew something was coming. They called it the Galactic Zoo, though no one visited. No one dared walk near the containment dome. Even the guards stayed silent in its presence. Years passed. The war ended. Varnuk remained caged, forgotten by most. Then a transport ship crashed on the far side of the moon. No distress signal was sent. The station sensors picked up only one survivor, a small human child. 5 years old, alone. No one could explain how she survived the crash. The guards were sent, but she was gone before they arrived. The next morning, cameras inside the creature's vault showed something impossible. The child was standing in front of Varnuk. No walls between them. The cage was open. The creature, feared across star systems, was not attacking. It was kneeling. Its head was bowed. Its claws were tucked. And the child was touching its face. Command panicked. Alarms were raised. Strike drones were armed. But they didn't fire. Not because of doubt, but because the creature didn't move. It stayed still, calm, protective. The child, named Lena, sat on its clawed hand like it was a parent. She smiled. The monster blinked slowly and curled its tail around her, shielding her from the cold air. Doctors and soldiers watched in silence. The cameras zoomed closer. No implants, no control chips. Nothing was forcing the creature to obey. It had simply chosen. The vault commander, a grizzled vet named Aros, whispered under his breath, "It's not rage that calms the wild. It's innocence." News spread across the stars within hours. The creature that no empire could control had submitted to a child. Governments demanded the girl be separated from the beast. Scientists demanded tests, but Aros refused. "You touch her, you'll unleash it again," he warned. The council didn't listen. They sent an elite team to retrieve her. The soldiers entered the vault with stun gear and psi barriers. Varnuk growled, low and cold, eyes turning red. But Lena stood up, hugged its face, and whispered, "It's okay." The beast went quiet. The team hesitated. One soldier raised a stun wand. Varnuk opened its jaws, but Lena turned and shouted, "Stop!" And to everyone's shock, the soldier froze, not from fear, from something deeper. Like a voice inside his mind telling him to obey. That moment changed everything. Varnuk was no longer just a monster. It had bonded with the girl. It heard her. It listened, and it would not let her be taken. When the council ordered the team to continue, they refused. Soldiers laid down their weapons. Aros broadcast the footage galaxy-wide. The stars watched as one child, no older than 5, calmed the deadliest predator in known space and far beyond the moon. In the shadows of forgotten systems, other creatures began to stir, ones thought extinct, ones that had once raged like Varnuk, something ancient was awakening. Something old and powerful, and now they had seen the kneeling beast. And the tiny human who made it bow, the Mergoth, stood like a mountain beside the human soldier. Its breath was hot against the air, eyes glowing like twin suns in the dark. Captain Joran Vance didn't flinch. He raised his hand slowly, not as a threat but like someone taming a wild horse. His voice was calm, firm, not loud. And the beast responded. The creature sniffed his hand, growled low, then backed away with a snort. But it didn't leave. It circled him once, twice, then sat behind him like a massive armored guardian. The jungle that had been filled with screams now fell silent. Other human soldiers who had been hiding in the trees or buried in trenches slowly peeked out. Their eyes widened in disbelief. Some were shaking. Others whispered. But Joran raised a hand again, not to the beast, but to his team. "Stand down," he said. "It's not going to hurt us." They obeyed, but none moved too quickly. No one wanted to spook the beast. Back on the council warship, the alien commanders panicked. Their top weapon had been turned. It had never followed commands from voice or code. But now it obeyed a human who didn't even know how to speak its language. Orders flew like lightning. Neutralize the beast. Target the human. Wipe them both out. But by then, Joran had already disappeared into the jungle with the Mergoth. He didn't trust the council not to retaliate. He also didn't trust Earth Command not to make a mistake. Joran knew this was bigger than him. He had seen the beast up close. It was smart. It wasn't just an animal. There was something in its eyes that understood pain, loss, and rage. And something about him had connected with that. They moved through Kalis Prime together. The jungle bent around the Mergoth's presence. Every predator ran when it walked. Joran used this power not for war, but to save the remaining human outposts. Whenever the beast appeared beside him, enemies scattered. Within 3 days, the entire planet was under human control. Earth Command called him in. They were cautious, curious, but not stupid. They welcomed Joran like a hero, but kept their rifles close. Scientists and diplomats watched every step the beast took. It did not attack. It stayed at Joran's side like a loyal hound made of stone and fury. One scientist, Dr. Ilana Reyes, was brave enough to approach. She walked slowly, hand out, recording everything. "You're not just a weapon, are you?" she said softly to the beast. It blinked, then touched its snout to her palm. That moment changed the way humans saw the creature. It wasn't a tool. It was an intelligence. Joran was asked 100 questions. How did you do it? Did you use tech? Pheromones? He answered every time the same way. I stood my ground. I didn't show fear. I saw it, and it saw me. His answer didn't make sense to the council. But to every human who had faced war, it was clear. Respect was earned in the fire, but the council was not done. Their pride was wounded. Their control was slipping. They declared Earth an unstable species. They called for sanctions, weapons blockades, even limited strikes. But now, no one wanted to risk sending troops. What if there were more humans who could control monsters? So the council sent assassins instead, silent killers. Shadows with claws. And poisons. Their orders were simple: remove Joran, recover the beast, or eliminate it. They came at night, one by one. But none of them returned. The Mergoth didn't sleep. It didn't forgive. And it never left Joran's side. Soon, a new plan took shape. Earth Command sent Joran and the beast to negotiate. Not with the council, but with its enemies. Races who had suffered under the council's power now saw hope. If humans could stand against the great empires and win the loyalty of the galaxy's most feared beast, maybe they weren't alone. In a gathering deep inside the moon of Varrock 9, the first rebel pact was signed. Not with weapons, but with trust. Alien leaders from fractured worlds extended their hands. And Joran, standing between them and the beast that once slaughtered armies, smiled and nodded. Let me know when you're ready for part 3, or if you'd like a thumbnail text, SEO description, or Leonardo AI image prompt for this part. Asterisk, the moonbase was shut down within days. Officially, it was called a containment collapse. But those who had seen the truth knew better. Lena and Naki were not contained. They were protected. Aros erased the logs and cleared the surveillance. Then he locked the vault doors from the inside and stayed behind to guard them. The council demanded an explanation. But Aros didn't respond. The rebel colonies did. Leaders from scattered systems sent encrypted messages. They wanted to speak. To Lena, not as a prisoner, but as a guest. They believed if she could reach one creature like Naki, maybe others could be reached too. Dr. Amira Tith, a xenopsychologist from the Nerian Belt, sent an offer. She had a research facility hidden beneath the oceans of her world. For years, she had tried to study a sea beast known as Orwin 9, a leviathan that had destroyed over 40 ships. No one had ever seen it up close and lived. She believed Lena might be the key. Aros was against it at first. She's just a kid, he said. She's not your weapon. But Lena overheard the message and looked up at him. Maybe it's lonely too, she whispered. That one sentence changed everything. Naki bent down. Lena climbed onto his shoulder. And together, they left the vault. Their journey to the Nerian Belt took 7 days. During that time, Lena asked many questions. Why do people fight monsters? Why do monsters fight back? Naki never answered in words, but his body always stayed close. He blocked doors that hissed too loud. He watched the stars while she slept. She didn't need words to understand him. When they arrived at the underwater facility, pressure alarms screamed as Naki entered the ocean, but nothing collapsed. He adjusted, swimming like he had done it forever. Inside the lab, Dr. Tith watched with wide eyes as the beast moved through deep trenches like a shadow. Lena stood beside her in a diving suit, ready to go down. They descended slowly. Naki swam beside the sub like a guardian fish. At a depth of 12 kilometers, sonar picked up Orwin 9. The water trembled. Cameras cracked, but Lena didn't flinch. She exited the sub in a pressure-shielded pod. When the great beast emerged from the dark, she stared at it without fear. Orwin 9 was vast, bigger than 10 buildings, tentacles like towers, eyes like suns. Its mouth opened in a slow circle of teeth. It released a sound wave that shattered all coms. But then Naki swam in front of it. His glow changed. His body shifted. He wasn't warning. He was speaking in a way no translator could read. Lena raised her hand and opened the pod door. She floated forward, bubble lights around her flickering. The ocean roared, but the beast did not attack. It tilted its head, one massive eye focused on her. She reached out and gently touched its skin. Then, just like Naki, it bowed. The moment was recorded and sent to every system. Within hours, systems that had fought for centuries paused. It wasn't politics that did it. It wasn't war. It was a little girl who had made 2 ancient terrors kneel. She didn't force them. She understood them. The council fell into chaos. Half of its members resigned. Others tried to spin lies. But no one listened. Truth had already reached the people, not through speeches, but through action. Naki and Orwin 9 were no longer seen as threats. They were protectors who had waited for someone who didn't scream. Lena was invited to a meeting on the neutral world of Alvarez. It was the first gathering of over 100 species since the Collapse Wars. She wore a simple red suit, holding a necklace made from one of Naki's old scales. When she walked into the great hall, the room fell silent. The Matari leader, who once ordered the death of all bio-beasts, stood slowly. "We feared what we did not understand," he said. "But you taught the unteachable." That is strength greater than any fleet. Lena simply smiled and said, "They're not monsters. They're just waiting for someone to be kind." Outside the chamber, Naki waited under guard, but not as a prisoner. Children of many worlds came to see him. He let them climb his arms, sit on his back, and draw pictures on his shell. Arwen 9 swam in the skies above, kept aloft by gravity tanks, glowing like a god of peace. And somewhere in the void, more ancient creatures watched the stars, waiting for a child who wouldn't scream. Not all were happy with Lena's rise. In the darker corners of the galaxy, those who profited from war saw her as a threat. Weapon lords, beast hunters, and black market rulers feared what would happen if more creatures like Naki and Arwen 9 were calmed. Fear was their business, and Lena was killing it. They began to whisper. "It's not the girl," some said. "It's mind control. A trick. The beasts aren't loyal, they're cursed." Others feared something deeper, that the monsters had chosen her because she was the key to something ancient, something even older than the Council. The more they tried to explain it away, the more her legend grew. Soon, Lena received a message unlike any other. It wasn't written in words, but in feeling. A dream that showed a burning planet, a lonely beast howling into black skies, and a voice whispering one word, "Come." Dr. Tith ran scans. The message came from a planet long removed from galactic maps, buried in myth. Its name was Solithra. Solithra had been labeled uninhabitable. Covered in ash storms and seismic shifts, it had been closed off centuries ago. After several research teams vanished, the Council had called it cursed. Now Lena wanted to go there. Aros and Reyes both said no. But Naki didn't growl. He stood beside her and waited for the ship to be prepared. They traveled in secret, using old smuggler lanes and cloaked drives. The closer they came, the more the dreams returned. Lena saw images of beasts in chains crying out through stone. Memories not hers, but from the ground itself. Solithra wasn't dead. It was sleeping, waiting for someone to wake it. When they landed, the planet groaned beneath their boots. The skies were gray, the ground cracked, and winds howled like whispers. Naki moved ahead, unbothered. He was being called too. Deep in the canyons they found the first sign, a wall of bones taller than buildings, all shaped like creatures no one had ever seen. Further in, the earth opened into a massive crater. And there, in the center, was the beast from her dreams. Curled up like stone, covered in dust and vines, it lay silent. It was 3 times the size of Arwen 9, with wings of rock and horns of crystal. Reyes gasped. "That's not a monster," she said. "That's a grave guardian." Lena approached alone. The others stayed back. She walked across the cracked floor, her boots crunching against old fossils. When she reached the creature, she placed her hand on its stone-like forehead. "I heard you," she whispered. "You're not alone anymore." For a moment, nothing moved. Then the ground began to shake. The beast opened its eyes, one golden, one white. Its head rose, sending boulders falling away like dust. It looked down at Lena and didn't roar. It bowed, just like Naki had. Just like Arwen 9, a third had joined the circle. And far above, hidden satellites caught it all. The footage went viral in minutes. But this time, it wasn't just citizens who reacted. High generals, science councils, and even religious leaders began to ask questions. What is she unlocking? How many are there? Did we bury our gods and call them threats? Fear turned into silence, and silence into respect. But not everyone remained still. A powerful mercenary warlord known as Thrask the Maw prepared a fleet. He had hunted bio-beasts for years, sold their bones for power. He could not allow peace between monsters and humans. He declared open war on Lena and her beast army. He launched a missile strike on the Nerian ocean base, killing dozens. He poisoned 3 worlds known to hold slumbering creatures. Then he issued a warning. Return the girl, or I'll return fire to the stars. He believed fear would break her. But Lena had already made her decision. She stood atop the newly awakened guardian, Naki and Orwin flanking her on either side. We don't run, she said. We protect. The beasts didn't roar. They stood in silence, taller than towers, unmoving, unshaken. That image was broadcast across every system. Not one beast leashed, not one human screaming. Just unity. Thrask launched his invasion anyway. 40 ships entered orbit above Silithra. He had war mechs, hunter drones, and planet killer charges. But as they descended, the ground cracked, not in fear. In fury, dozens of shapes rose from the canyon's ancient creatures once forgotten, now awakened by Lena's presence. And they were not afraid. Thrask the Maw had made a mistake. He had brought war to a planet that had already known enough of it. Silithra did not cry out in fear. It answered with thunder. The skies darkened. The winds changed direction. And from beneath stone and ash, the sleeping titans awoke. The first to rise was a beast shaped like a mountain, covered in plates of volcanic rock. It moved slowly, but shook the very world with each step. The second was a serpent with wings like shattered glass, its body glowing blue with ancient energy. Behind them came the clawed walkers, horned watchers, and howling storm beasts. Lena stood between them, arms wide, eyes glowing faintly. Naki was by her side, silent and proud. Arwen 9 swam through the air above in a field of pressurized mist. And the third guardian, Silithra's heartbeast, spread its crystal wings as Thrask's ships began to descend. The warlord laughed through open gums. So this is your answer, little girl? Pets and myths? Let me show you real power. He ordered all Kens to fire. Energy blasts rained from the sky, but none touched the ground. The winged serpent coiled in the air and summoned a storm so thick the shots melted before hitting. One of the walkers leapt upward, striking the cruiser with a single clawed limb. Another dove underground, rising beneath a gunship and tearing it in half. Naki charged a drop pod before it landed, shattering its hull with a roar. The Titans did not need direction. They moved as one, guided by something deeper than orders. Thrask screamed in anger. Focus on the child, he shouted. But his words held no weight anymore. Half his soldiers turned off their weapons. Others reported visions of their own childhoods, moments of fear, and then warmth. Lena's presence was reaching them through the Titans. She wasn't commanding. She was connecting. Reyes, watching from orbit on a rebel cruiser, whispered into her recorder, "This isn't war. This is memory." These creatures were never made for destruction. They were protectors once, and she is waking their purpose again. Aros nodded beside her. And Thrask is about to learn the cost of attacking that purpose. The third guardian launched into the air, wings shimmering like glass. Its tail cracked through the front line of Thrask's ships, sending pieces scattering across space. Arwen 9 released a sonic wave that disabled drones for kilometers. Naki stood tall, his glow now pulsing with the same rhythm as Lena's heartbeat. Thrask tried to retreat. He ordered his jump drives online, but Silithra itself answered. Plates of the planet's crust rose up, locking gravity fields in place. His ships shook as if gripped by an unseen force. And then, one by one, they were brought to the ground not by explosions, but by pressure. The planet refused to let him escape. Lena approached the wreckage of Thrask's command ship. Fires burned low. Smoke rose. The warlord, bloodied and crawling, raised his weapon. "You don't control them," he growled. "You're just a child." She looked at him and replied, "Exactly." The weapon fell from his hand before he could fire. He was surrounded by Naki, the Guardian, and 3 other Titans. But none of them moved to kill him. Instead, they stood still, watching. Lena walked forward and said, "They don't need revenge. They just needed someone to listen." Thrask closed his eyes, shaking. He knew it was over. That moment changed the galaxy. Not through destruction, but through restraint. Lena and the Titans had stopped a war without becoming monsters. Across hundreds of systems, leaders watched the footage. They saw power not used to conquer, but to protect. And it shook them more than any weapon. On Solithra, the Titans began to return to the Earth. One by one, they lay down in the cracks and canyons again, glowing faintly before becoming still. Not dead, just resting. They had answered the call. And now they trusted the world again. Maki stayed awake, curling beside Lena as she sat beneath a starlit sky. Rias approached her with a smile. "You changed them," she said. Lena looked up and shook her head. "No, I just reminded them who they were." The stars twinkled above as the planet breathed slowly, healed by memory and connection. But somewhere beyond the edge of known space, something else had noticed. Solithra was calm again. The beasts had returned to sleep beneath stone and ash. Peace held the planet in silence. But deep beyond mapped space, past shattered worlds and lost systems, something ancient had stirred. A signal was sent, not from a fleet, not from a living mind, but from a machine buried in blackness. It had once watched over the Titans, not to protect them, but to control them. It was called the Root Protocol, a forgotten failsafe created by the old species who built the Guardians long before humans. Reach the stars. The protocol had one rule: if the Titans ever obeyed anything outside the command core, they must be terminated. Now, that rule had been broken. Naki, Orwin 9, and the others had followed a human child. The protocol marked Lena as a threat. The machine core sent out a pulse, activating satellite weapons left in orbit around dead worlds. It called forth 4 Enforcer-class drones, massive constructs built to erase planets. The first sign came as a shadow over the moons of Solithra. Then, a hum in the wind. Reyes noticed it first. Her scanners picked up unknown frequencies buried in the static. Aros confirmed it. "They're coming," he said. "And they're not here to ask questions." Lena stood at the edge of a cliff with Naki behind her, feeling the air change again. But this time was different. She wasn't alone. Messages came in from every sector. "We saw what you did. We believe. We're sending help." Ships launched from rebel worlds. Civilian crafts turned into support fleets. Old enemies stood side by side. Not to fight the beasts, but to defend them. Still, the enforcers arrived first. 4 machines shaped like towers descended into Solithra's canyons. Their voices rang like thunder. "Reset all rogue guardians. Destroy external influence." Naki growled, his glow shifting to a deep red. The Titans rose again, not with rage but with purpose. They would not be reset. The machines launched their attacks. Shockwaves cracked mountains. Blasts scorched the air. One guardian fell, shielding a nearby village. Lena ran forward, arms wide, shouting not at the Titans, but at the machines. "You're not protectors. You're jailers." Her voice echoed in the minds of every beast. Then something unexpected happened. Naki didn't attack the machines. He stood in front of Lena and roared not in anger, but in defiance. The Guardians followed. They surrounded her, forming a living wall of scales and crystal. Together, they absorbed the next blast. They had made a choice. One the Root Protocol couldn't understand. In space, rebel ships clashed with defense satellites. One ship dove into a control array, breaking the network long enough for Reyes to send a signal. A shutdown code, patched through a Titan's pulse. Frequency. She didn't know if it would work. But Lena had once said, "Kindness leaves an echo." And that echo was now their hope. The signal hit the lead enforcer just as it charged again. For a moment, it paused. A flicker of confusion passed through its core. Data conflicted. Command structure broke. And in that moment, Lena stepped forward. and placed her hand on its metal surface. "You don't have to follow broken rules," she said. "You can remember too." Something deep inside the machine shifted. It powered down slowly, lights fading. One by one, the other enforcers followed. Not because of programming, because they had seen something greater than commands. They had seen choice. The root protocol failed. Its last message before self-erasure was only one word: why? The war ended before it truly began. No celebration came. Only silence, peace, and understanding. The Titans returned to their slumber, but this time not in hiding. They stood visible on the surfaces of friendly worlds. They became guardians again, not weapons. Schools were built around them. Children played at their feet. Lena remained on Silithra, but her voice reached across stars. She didn't take a throne or command armies. She visited new worlds, met new people, and wherever she went, frightened creatures came out from hiding. They didn't bow to her, they chose her. And she chose them back. Reyes wrote the final report. "The girl taught us that the strongest force in the galaxy isn't control. It's connection." Aros retired beside the Guardians. Now they're quiet. Watch her. And Naki never left Lena's side. His glow forever tied to the heartbeat of the child who once saw a monster and simply said hello. In the end, it wasn't power or technology that saved the galaxy. It was the courage of a child, the trust of a beast, and the hope that even the deadliest can be reminded what they were truly made for.